that song I discovered, and it's pretty much everything that I've been through. So, until this point, sorry. So I'm going to start off with Bible verse, Psalms 27:1. The Lord is my light and the salvation, so why should I be afraid? And then Exodus 15:2. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has given me victory. This is my God, and I will praise him. Tyler Carpenter, of course. I was born September 27th, 1987, to my parents back there, Kevin and Julie Carpenter. So my childhood, it was pretty much normal. I was a happy kid. Don't remember a lot of when I was really little. Then going through school, I struggled to make friends, struggled to fit in school. I was pulled out of, in second grade, I was pulled out of regular classes and put into special education. And so that was tough on me because I struggled with school, never really understood why I struggled with school. And then, like I said, I was bullied a lot and just didn't have any friends. So that definitely put something inside of me that was tough to deal with when I was younger. As far as so I have a large family on my dad's side. I was really close with a lot of my cousins growing up and a lot of my family, and we constantly went to just have family events, and that was always I'm an only child, so that was always fun going up and having a lot of cousins to play with. And sorry. But so that part was always good. And then in middle school and high school, both middle school, that was tough for me. Like I said, I did not have friends. I was bullied. Never really understood why I felt left out inside. People say hi to me, people talk to me, but I never really felt like people cared if I was around. And then in high school, I had one best friend in high school. His name's Ben. Met him freshman year. Freshman year and sophomore year was really tough for me. So I had morning gym class, and I was in football, and I would go in there to lift weights, and I would get the crap beat out of me every day by 4 kids. And school wouldn't do anything about it, so I just had to deal with that. Definitely didn't feel wanted. A lot of times I would play video games and just kind of hang out by myself. So going through high school, I struggled with high school a lot. I definitely never really understood why I struggled with learning. But about junior year, I decided that I needed to work hard so I could graduate. And I was about 17 credits behind and still ended up graduating with more credits. And then I went off to college. And that's about just right before college, high school, that's when I didn't realize it until years later. That's when my addiction first started. About 16, between 16 and 17, that's when I started drinking on occasion with people that I knew, and that's when I started smoking weed a little bit. And then I went off to college, and again, I struggled with school. So like college was not any easier. And to drown all the feelings that how I felt about myself, my self-esteem, and I partied with people because those were the people that wanted to hang around me. I didn't feel left out when I was drinking and hanging out with people. And that caused me to miserably fail college. And then I left college, went back home for a little bit, and tried going back to college again, and same thing, I failed, struggled with it. And then I worked a 2 to 10 job at Hy-Vee and drank with friends almost every night. Every night we'd go out, we'd party, and then I would go to work and do it all over again. And again, I felt that's when I started picking up friends. That's when people started wanting to hang out with me. I was able to actually not be, I guess, quiet. I was able to bust out of my shell a little bit. And so, also struggled with my, having relationships over the years. Also, there's one thing I've struggled with over the years, besides not being able to accept myself for who I am, there was a thing why I'm not sure why I felt this way, why this happened to me, but I'm bi. And so that was a thing that I was confused for years. Why I'm that way, why I feel this way, why this happened to me. And that sucks, not being able to know why you feel this way and confused with where to go. And then I started playing, my drinking got heavy at that point and smoking weed a lot more at that point. And then I got to a point where I was about 23, 24, around there, and I discovered why I struggled with meeting people in my life, the whole life, why I struggle with school, and it's because I have untreated ADD. And I don't know if a lot of you know about ADD or the full, but it makes you feel empty inside. You can't feel feelings. It's hard to focus or do anything your whole life. You don't want to be a messy person, but it's hard to get that motivation to get up and do normal things that normal people do. And that's when I started playing rugby and also smoking weed every day, and noticed that helps with my anxiety, helps with my ADD. And then I ended up getting injured playing rugby, and had a 400-pound dude fall in the back of my leg, and I tore all the tendons in my ankle and my knee, and I never had surgery done. And so a fun thing at the time, smoking weed became everyday life for me, something I needed because I live in pain every day. And then after that point, that's when I met my wife, and somebody came into my life that made me feel good about myself, made me feel like a happy, outgoing person that has something to live for. And she became my best friend. And I ended up moving in with her about a month after we got together. And at that point, like, life was very happy for me. It's constantly going on vacations. I quit drinking at that point. I had an uncle, a really close uncle to me, that died from drinking. And I have a family that struggles with alcohol. So I did not want to drink anymore. But that's when I turned to other things. Then about a month before I got married, so one thing, I always wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to have somebody to love and be a dad. And a month before I got married, well, just right before that, we found out that we were pregnant. And then I remember going into the doctor, and the doctor asking, "Who told you guys that you're pregnant?" And I'm like, "Well, what? The doctor did." And they told us that we had a miscarriage. And just, I think it was like a week after that, went to the state fair with my parents, and my wife, and she wasn't feeling too good, and so we took her home, and she started bleeding profusely. I got her in the car going 110 on the interstate, took her to the emergency room. She dropped a blood clot out in the emergency room exit, and pretty sure that was the baby. They had to do an emergency blood transfusion at that time. And so that became a very hard thing for me to deal with. And then shortly after that, that's when I was introduced to meth. It first started out as just smoking it, having fun. Then I also worked with a guy that was pill addict. Constantly brought me pills every day. At that time, I was dealing with a lot of pain in my legs, so I became pill addict really bad at that point. And then after we got married, things were great. Besides, struggled with keeping our place clean. It's one thing she asked from me, and I couldn't deliver. She struggled with the fact that I'm bi. And I didn't tell her that until after we got married, so that was very just hard for us both to just get along because of that. And then that's when we kind of started to grow apart a little bit. And then we got evicted from our first apartment in Earlham, and we ended up moving to West Des Moines. And West Des Moines, honestly, was probably only good for about a month, and then that's when my addiction got even worse. I started snorting meth. I was using it a lot more. We were fighting a lot more, especially over things like she started her own business, and she used a lot of the money that I would bring in from work for that and use it towards her business, and I grew resentments. Started with that. And then after COVID, during COVID, that's when we were bringing in a lot of money at the time because I was bringing in unemployment from my job. I was lying on unemployment, telling them that I was making more, that I was working less than I actually told them. And so we had a lot of money coming in, and we were able to start buying a lot more. And I just would drown myself, all my feelings, all my hate, all my rage in myself inside because with that. And then I turned into a person that I promised I would never be. Self-fighting when I was growing up. And I swore I would never turn into that person that gets angry. With my untreated ADD, that's a symptom. And so, from being bullied when I was a kid, meth brought out an evil person out of me that was sick and tired of being bullied. And my wife was sick and tired of a lot of the ways how I would act and things I would do, that she nagged me a lot, and that caused a lot of problems between us. And that's when I turned into an abusive husband. I'm not proud of this, but I hit her once. And knowing that you don't want to be that person and you turn to that person, it kills you. It absolutely kills you. And that's when I discovered IV use, and I started shooting up. And I noticed that everything else that's inside of me, everything else, the hatred towards myself and the way I feel about myself was completely gone. And I went on just a spree of just using drugs more and more. And then that got to the point where I hit a point in my life that I gave up on life. I couldn't handle it anymore. But my wife was there to pick up that, and that put a toll on her. And I ended up taking the car one night, taking off, and going on a high-speed chase. Woke up in the ditch the next morning and ended up in the hospital. Next day, we took off to Colorado for 6 months. I promised her I would get my stuff together at that point, but I did not deal with my mental health. And so that 6 months turned into me not getting a job, turned into me just getting relief by going out and hiking every day. And then we came back to Iowa. I was not ready to come back to Iowa at that time. And so for 6 months I didn't use. When I came back to Iowa, that's when I started using again. And that's when that started to tear my relationship even more far apart from each other. And that's also when my legal troubles started to come into play. And I ended up, the night that we moved to Colorado, got into an incident with her, and I pulled out a knife on her to scare her so I can get out of I lost car keys so I can go find that, and I ended up getting arrested in Colorado. And I ended up going to jail for 3 months in Colorado. Came back, and we moved to Des Moines. And I was so far into my use at that point that I was oblivious to see that there was problems in my relationship. I thought everything was fine. And the one thing she asked for me is to have a job. I couldn't even do that. I was so far gone that I couldn't even be a man to get a job and help her out. That kills you inside. And that's when I tried committing suicide. Took a vacuum cord wrapped it around my neck and kept wrapping that so tight to the point that I was suffocating myself. And the only thing that kept me alive was I blacked out, fell down, and hit my head on the bathtub, or I would have been dead. And that is another thing that tore my relationship up. And we just kept growing farther and farther apart. And I would get high and go, instead of wondering or taking care of her, I'd go out and do my own thing. And why that's happening, she's turning to other people for support. And I was too messed up to realize that. Too selfish to realize that. Then after that, I went to jail for quite a while. Actually, we lost our apartment in Des Moines. Got evicted. And at that point, I decided that, hey, I'm going to stand up and be a man and take care of this. And I moved my family into a trap house, into the garage of a trap house. And then every day we were there, I would take off and go do my own thing. And again, that leaves her with nothing. That leaves her just to not want to be with me, but I couldn't see that. And then we became homeless for like almost a month. There's one, and we took off from that trap house. We were living under a tree for about a week with my 2 dogs, and they would get in fights because of all the fighting, the anxiety, and my dogs mean everything to me. They're support animals to me. They're what keeps me together. Knowing that I caused that, there's a lot of hurt there. And then we went to campgrounds in Altoona, Iowa for a night, and I had no choice but to go to Walmart. We had no food for the dogs. We had no food for ourselves. We didn't even have a tent. So I went and loaded up a cart full of everything we needed: food, dog food, tent, and busted out the doors at Walmart with $700 worth. I went to jail. Meanwhile, she moved in with her mom. And then I came home, and our relationship just kept growing more further apart. And that's my best friend. Just knowing that I did that stuff to my best friend just tears me up. And then, so we were going back and forth from, she was staying at her parents' house, I was staying at my parents' house. My relationship with my parents at that time were not good. Got a lot of fights with them. Didn't want to be there. They said things to me and I said things to them, and I decided, I got in a fight with my mom one day and packed my bag, took off, and I was going to try to hitch my way to Colorado. I got stuck out in the cold at 3:30 in the morning, and I found a construction site. They had their doors unlocked, and I went in there to get out of the cold for a couple hours. Then the next night, I was sick of being out of the cold, so I called my parents to come and get me. And I came back to their house, and then the next day, cops show up at my parents' house with an arrest warrant. I was charged with 3rd-degree burglary. Then that's the first time I actually decided I'm going to lose the most important things to me, my wife, my dogs, the only thing I got to keep me together. And so I decided to get sober at that point. Normally they came for a pretrial release, and normally I would lie to anybody in jail and to the law. This time I told them I used drugs. Told them that I am a daily IV meth user. So I got out of jail after being in there for almost 3 months. I got released on probation, and I was so happy that I was going to be able to see my wife. She kept putting off seeing me for days, and then I found out that kid that I thought was my friend, kid I grew up with that bullied me in school, that later became my friend, her and him were having relations together. And then a month later, she told me that they're in a relationship. Meanwhile, she says she still loves me, so we continue to talk, we continue to hang out with each other. That tore me up even further. For a month, I went to AA, and I started to make some friends that were very big factors in my life at the time. But dealing with my wife and him, and I got to the point where it got exhausting going to meetings every day. It got exhausting doing life every day, and I relapsed. I stopped talking to those people that were big influences on putting me down the right path at the time because I was ashamed of myself, and I couldn't face the fact that to tell these people that I relapsed. And that's when my IV use got even worse. And I was court ordered to go to treatment. My wife helped me find a treatment center and got that scheduled. Well, I kept putting it off. I did not want to go away, and I moved in with her until I went to treatment for 2 months, and we started to become very close again. But at the same time, we'd fight all the time, and then she would leave to go see him, and that's when I would just use even more and more. Then I remember the day they came to get me for treatment. I was such a chaotic mess that whole night, getting ready, that I barely paid attention to my dogs and scared them, and then I had to say goodbye to them, and I did not want to leave, but I knew that was best for me to go to treatment. So I went to treatment, and treatment went well, but at the same time, I knew that it wasn't the right time because I didn't really put much effort into it. And I got out in August of 25. Actually, September 25, I went in, August of 25, and I thought I was ready to get out. My wife came and picked me up from treatment that day, and then took me to my sober living. And the sober living that I got forced into from the treatment center I went to, it was originally the treatment center I was supposed to go to, but they had a waiting list, so they talked me into going to Kingdom Living. Kingdom Living turned out to be not the right place for me. I immediately did not feel comfortable with the guys that I lived with. I didn't feel comfortable with the program. So I isolated myself in the room when I was there, and then when I could leave, I'd go hang out at my wife's place. And then I would stay at her place while she goes and sees him. And for 3 weeks that worked until I found an old loaded needle one day. Went and sat in the bathroom for 5 minutes, told myself I'm better than this. I don't need this. Took me 5 minutes to get up and walk back to that gravity and go to the bathroom. I relapsed so hard at that point. I was shooting up 5 grams of meth a day. And when he was there, I couldn't be there, so I would go wander around Des Moines. I would go to people's places that I knew that would give me free stuff, and I would just numb myself and keep numbing myself because I didn't want to feel any pain. I didn't want to feel the way I felt about myself, and I'm straight to say I was a piece of shit. I was a piece of crap. And that's the way I always felt like I was a mess up my entire life and couldn't do anything right. And so Kingdom Living, one night they had me do a test, P-test, and I tested positive for methamphetamines. They kicked me out of Kingdom Living. I had nowhere to go, so I went and stayed with my wife. And I continued to use there. Up to about a month, I went on a run for a month. They put an arrest warrant out for my arrest for violation of probation. One night, ended up using all night long. Me and my wife got into a fight that morning. And the dogs got into a fight with each other because we were fighting, and somebody in the Airbnb that we were staying in called the cops. That was a blessing. Me getting arrested that morning was a blessing. I was so depressed that I went to jail. That saved my life. Why I sat in jail for a month and a half there, I was fearing what was going to happen to me. And I for sure thought I was going to go to prison. One night, normally don't listen to much advice, especially coming from anyways, my mom would tell me all the time, just pray on him. I wouldn't listen to that. I didn't really, at that point, I believed in God, but I didn't believe that would save me from anything. But one night, right before I went to bed, I prayed to take me out of addiction, take me away from this life, and put me back in a treatment center. Went to court, and they determined that they're going to send me to treatment. And I was so happy to know that I'm not going to prison. So they found a treatment center, and I went to Thrive. I've never been to Thrive. They suggested it at the jail. Thrive turned out to be another blessing in my life. The staff at Thrive, Jen, you have no clue what you did in my life. And all the other stuff at Thrive. I decided when I went to Thrive, I was going to hit the ground running and not stop. And make my life better. And they helped out my life there. And I also found out while I was there from a visit with my parents that I was supposed to go, the last day I went to court, I was supposed to go to prison. They were going to revoke my probation and send me to prison. The judge that day decided to give me a second chance and send me to treatment. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have ended up at Thrive. The case manager there, from the first time I went to treatment, the case managers, they didn't do nothing for me. The case manager there was the most amazing lady I've ever met, and she will fight for you if you fight back. and she found Hope CDA. I put an application not thinking anything about it, but at the time I wasn't so sure about it because I grew up in religion, but a lot of stuff in my life caused me to run away from it, and I'll straight up say I was not down with the religion thing, and so I'm like, but I needed a long-term treatment program. I needed a long-term program that will have your back, and I found out they have their own construction company. I didn't have a job for 6 years, and I struggled with finding jobs, so that automatically was something that would help me out. And then I didn't hear back from them, so I just kind of forgot about Hope CDA till one day the case manager came up to me and said, "You have an interview with Hope CDA." I was kind of baffled at that point. And so I did my interview at 3 guys who became a pretty big part of my life to where it is at now. The interview went well, but still didn't know if I was going to get in there. It was getting up to the end of my stay. I had about a week left at Thrive with no word from if I got out of the program. Then I found out I got a second interview. I was told by one of the RSs at Thrive that does not happen. That is rare, that most guys from Thrive will get a second interview. So I did my second interview, but right before that, I was told that I got into Hope CDA before I did my second interview. So I go into this interview thinking I already got in. And then after I did the interview, I find out that they're not sure. They're going to let me know if I got in. That day, I ended up having a class in Thrive where we talked about self-esteem. I lost it. All my fears and pain that I felt over the years about myself and not liking myself all came up. And then the case manager came up to me and told me I got in. And that it would be another 2 weeks before I would come to Hope CDA. I did not know when I came to Hope CDA what Hope CDA would be to me. Since I got there, I found such a loving family that I never had. Brothers that will have your back at any moment as long as you are doing the right thing and you're going on the right path. They are changing my life. And then that's where the Lord was brought in my life. They taught me what love is and what the Lord can do for you as long as you pray. And one of the struggles my whole life was knowing what I wanted to do with my life. After high school, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. It became years of misery of just working dead-end jobs with paycheck to paycheck and tearing you down. Because of Hope CDA, because of Thrive, I'm going to go become a drug counselor. I'm going to go help out people that deal with the same problems that I do and show them that this life is worth it. I now have a driven purpose in my life to get up every day, to smile every day, and to not struggle with everyday life because of the Lord, because of Hope, because of Thrive, because of everybody in my life that's helped out. And so before when I went to AA and went to recovery, from the first time and after that, it was a strenuous time of different sponsors. I would go through several sponsors, and some would work out, some wouldn't I found a guy that's changing my life. Trent, I love you, brother. You understand where I'm coming from. You help me out. Even when I'm straight mad at the decisions that have been made, why I've been at Hope, you show me that you don't have to be mad, that you can get through that. I never had that before, and this guy's helping me with my life every day. I'm working on the steps. I'm dealing with my struggles. And thanks to all the guys, I found Westdale. Westdale is another big part of my transition on finding myself, starting to love myself. Pastor Dustin has made an impact on my life since I've been here. To hear the struggles he went through and to know that he can do it and I can do it shows me that to not give up. And now I'm at a point where from every drug I've used in my life, alcohol, even going Cali sober for 6 months, I'm sober the longest I've ever been. I will be hitting 8 months on the 7th of July. And there's no looking back. I know I've been judged for this, but I got a tattoo that's a recovery tattoo. It's a reminder for me of what the hell I went through and where I'm at now and what the Lord's bringing me now. So I got a needle on my arm with my sobriety date to, if I ever have a down day and want to go back to that, to look at that and reminder of never to go back and to see where I've been. So with that, God bless the Lord. God bless y'all. My life is forever changed, and hopefully I will keep changing and becoming a better person. And that's it. Yeah.